Welcome to The Fire Within, the Okanagan's premier entrepreneurship talk show. I'm Joel Young, your host, and I'm very excited this week to be having as my guest a new friend that I've met after my wife and I moved to the Okanagan. I'd like to introduce Dave Bigelow, the founder and president of Cherry Hill Coffee Company. Thank you for coming, Dave. I'm looking forward to our having a warm discussion this evening about coffee. Can you tell the viewers, because people often get confused when you say a coffee company. They don't know whether you're manufacturing coffee, whether you're serving coffee, or whether it's coming from heaven.
Many people do think that we're a cafe, but we're actually a manufacturer importer. So we bring in coffees from all over the world. Basically, coffee's grown upon where the equator belt is. It needs a few conditions to cultivate, and that's going to be, volcanic soil, favorable climate conditions, and usually higher elevations. So that's our primary business, is importing these Arabica beans from all these wonderful places all over the world. That takes up a big part of my job. As you know, as coffee is a traded commodity. So it's challenging at times, but what makes it even a slice more challenging but rewarding is that we are all organic. Cherry Hill's all organic.
You took the words right out of my mouth, because that was going to be my next question.
Yeah.
Just as a verification, you are an authentic organic coffee processor.
I think the better terminology to use is we're certified organic. A lot of people use the term organic and without understanding what it means. Certified organic means that we're plant audited. That means we have a governing agent that comes in, takes a look at all our records, takes a look at all our practices and our quality assurance model. Yeah. And we were one of the first in British Columbia for a coffee roaster.
Oh, for heaven's sakes.
This is our 10th year being certified organic at Cherry Hill.
That's pretty good.
So it's to us, that's when people say cutting edge, that's sort of what we do, is we're always want to be the first out of the gates on something like that.
Well, Dave, with that in mind, it just leads right into my next question is, can you tell the viewers a little bit about the history of Cherry Hill? Because I'm a cheater. I know a chunk of the history because we've had a friendship for a number of years, but the viewers don't know that, and I'd like them to hear.
Sure. Well, I've been in the coffee industry all my adult life, but it didn't start with Cherry Hill. All of our family, my brother, my father, and myself, we all come from coffee background. However, in '86, Cherry Hill was established. So we're in our 30th year this year. So that's pretty big, 30th year. And it was started by a gentleman called Lucia Kelly. Started in 1986, but our family took over in the early 90s. And ever since then, we're now second generation into Cherry Hill Coffee, and ever since it's been our family. And we've kind of followed the trends of, first, coffee kind of made a dramatic change into the gourmet industry in the 90s, was really exciting. But something that I saw in the late 90s and early 00s is we were importing coffee. Some of the best coffees we were importing was organic. It was more of a fluke. It wasn't really my way of life yet. It was when there wasn't as much education. And as we were bringing in some of these coffees, I realized that the most consistent crops, the most crops that I got excited about, the most crops that really differentiated us were organic. So in a few years of sourcing out, creating relationships, doing some direct trades with some of the farms, because it's more than just herbicides and pesticides in organics, it's so much more to the story. We started creating these relationships, and bang, we're in 2016 now, and we're 10 years certified organic.
Yeah, that's amazing. Quite a story, Dave, which is one of the reasons why I asked you to be my guest tonight, because I knew there was a story behind it all.
Well, it's one of those things too that it's amazing and most fortunate to be in a family business. I mean, my father's retired now, but he was my mentor, and I get to work with my brother, and anyone that knows my brother, he's characteristic like you wouldn't believe. He oozes characteristic. So we have our challenges because we're so different, but to see him every day and to be a partner and to be, working, to look forward to work every day and have that, it's pretty huge. And I think it ties into the finished product that we provide for all our clients is the energy that we take from that.
Dave, here's where I want to interject with a tidbit of information. You and Jeff, your brother, came to the Okanagan from Manitoba.
Right, Winnipeggers.
Winnipeggers, that's right, or Peggers, as I heard the other day.
Yeah.
peggers. And you were enrolled in the University of Manitoba
Yep.
in the School of Engineering,
Yeah.
and your dad was already out here.
Yeah, so that's something I skipped over, but in the early 90s, I was enrolled at University of Manitoba in mechanical engineering. And right beside University of Manitoba, there was a coffee roaster, a big one, Nabob. And I decided to just look for work, so it was convenient. And I had no idea what onion I peeled, because there is so many layers in the coffee world. It's huge business.
Yes.
But I had no idea it was so exciting. And I'm 46 now, and I've been doing it for 26 years, and I'm still learning every day. Like, it's still so exciting, and we all take certain things for granted in the coffee world. A lot of us don't even know where coffees come from. I mean, this is something I always have to tell people, is it's a fruit. Coffee comes from a fruit, and it's taken from the pit of a cherry. Very analogous to what we have here, except we don't want the fruit, we want the pit. Yeah. And it was really cool, because my son, who's 6 now, I told him all about this. He's real excited about stuff and statistics and how things work. And so he had to do a presentation at school, so I said, hey, why don't you do coffee? Because he loves it. Loves coming down to the plant. So we went through all the steps, and I showed him where coffee comes from, how it's cultivated and whatnot, and he did a little presentation at school. And I'm sort of looking around, and even some of the teachers and adults, they had no idea. And this is a 6-year-old, or at the time he was 5, I think, was telling that coffee is actually, a fruit, and people are scratching their head. This kid know what he's talking about?
I didn't know that either.
So it's kind of cool. That's there's a lot of aspects to our world in the coffee industry.
What is the length and breadth of your product line today in Cherry Hill from whence you've come? In other words, from the beginning of Cherry Hill, when you rang the bell and said, we're open for business, to today.
Well, I mean, like any company, you strive for growth and to open up new doors and to take market share and to continue. My biggest thing is to continue to move forward and create careers for our staff, as opposed to just jobs. We have a really excellent team. But I think what happens in the coffee world is, because it's always changing so quickly, there's a lot of fads, there's a lot of really neat things going on. As you know, you visit some of your coffee shops, people are making latte art, they're really changing coffee into a totally unique thing. I mean, probably Starbucks was the one that's got that ball rolling, but it's what a lot of the little companies are doing now with it, because really we look at it from, when I look at it, I don't look at coffee as a treat like some of the companies out there. It really is, we look at the natural side of coffees and some of the health aspects. So that's why we're so driven with the fair trade and the certified organic varietals that are available. They are really better for you, but they're also richer in taste. And that's something we continue to strive for every year. So sort of answer your question is, every year we just want to provide a better coffee, a better service, but we also want to not exactly roll with the trends, but create the trends.
You're based here in the Okanagan, Dave. Can you talk a little bit about your market?
Yeah, that's because a lot of people ask that quite often. The biggest challenge for us, so to play sort of the flip side, the biggest challenge for us is distribution. We provide a perishable product basically, because we're fresh roast to order. So what happens when we're outside of our local area, most of our businesses are 200 kilometer radius, which is the Okanagan. Past that, we have many clients, but it's always been our biggest challenge, because we don't really want to hook up with distribution companies, because then our QA model is in the hands of others. So that's been sort of where we are right now. If you were to say, what are you working on right now? That's what I've been working on for the last year or two. But the backyard is always the most important thing that you never lose touch on. And that's something we'll never forget. The Okanagan is what Cherry Hill is.
How do you differ from competitors? And when I ask you that question and I say competitors, I'm not talking about Nabob or even Starbucks. I'm talking about the independents.
Oh yeah. Well, that's something we get a lot, obviously, when a client interviews us.
Well, I know that's important to you, and that's why I wanted to ask that tonight in front of the viewers.
I think that's the most important thing, is what differentiates you from others. For us, it's really important that we put ourselves in the position of the client. All of our clients are partners, and not a lot of companies do that. I mean, it's the oldest model is partnership selling, but what's really important is when we're providing coffee, we're not just, Cherry Hill Coffee is not just a coffee, it's a service. We're doing machines, water, all the training and calibration. It's basically machines to beans and everything in between. So what's really important about that aspect is when we sell a coffee, when I give you a coffee at your establishment, you've got to do things in order to turn that into a gem. And we are highly involved in that, whether it's marketing, whether it's water, whether it's equipment, whether it's training, whether it's support. We really understand what it's like to be on that side of the counter, but also know the more successful our clients are, the more successful we can be from that, because we really want to make sure that it's a win-win situation.
Well, you do. The one thing I noticed, and as early as this morning when I stopped in early to buy a bag of coffee from you, is signs. There are lots of promotional tools,
Yep.
if I may use that word,
Yep.
promotional tools for Cherry Hill Coffee Company. Ever since I've known you, for which
Well,
is close to
branding's
10
pretty
years.
important.
Yeah.
So for us, in order for I think our clients to be successful, is they need to convey to the end consumer that they're carrying a high quality product. So it's something that we never neglect. We have some wonderful marketing material, but I think what's always important in marketing is to be able to convey the message of what it is. And something that we've had, I think, quite a bit of success for the last few years is really explaining what Cherry Hill is. You know, I've talked about the certified organics, but some of the other things that we're doing as well that really bring it up to a new level. And like I say, we talked about some of the things in the background, but the end user really is our biggest friends, because they're our biggest allies, because they're the ones that always ask if it serves Cherry Hill. So, I mean, we're blessed that way. That's how we started.
Yep.
Before we were in business to business, we were just selling beans to the consumer at home, and they were our biggest allies. And that's how a small company grows, is word of mouth.
Welcome back to The Fire Within. We're talking to Dave Bigelow, the president of Cherry Hill Coffee Company, and learning about his entrepreneurial fire within. Dave, before we took the break, we were talking about market, we're talking about differentiation, we're talking about goals for Cherry Hill, and you were starting to get into some of the new focuses of the company. Maybe you could take it from there.
Sure. One of the other things that we're developing right now is another brand, and it's pretty exciting. It's sort of, in some ways, everything Cherry Hill's not. So the brand's called Cafe Noce. It's going to be more European influenced, more traditional Italian type roasting. And what we're doing with that is going into certain markets that might not be viable for Cherry Hill. We're real excited about it because we have all the ideas in place and all the infrastructure to continue doing what Cherry Hill does so proudly, with the fresh roastness and the roast to order and whatnot. But there is a certain, you could say, a certain place for some of the things that are traditional from way back. And one thing that we've found is some of the European trends that are happening, and some of the blending and the taste profiling that's available there is a little bit different. So we've added this Cafe Noce to our portfolio to expand upon that.
And from that, let's jump right into, in a broader sense, overall goals, new goals for Cherry Hill.
One of the biggest challenges that we have is growing outside our 200-kilometer radius. And I think the best way to utilize that makes sense, not only just for keeping the quality assurance that we have, but also to continue our business and be in markets right across Canada, as opposed to an Okanagan company that be across Canada company, as we're thinking of developing and establishing roaster houses in other markets. We really liked some of the ideas of some other markets in BC, definitely Alberta, especially northern Alberta. We have some interest in Saskatchewan and Winnipeg as well. And these roaster houses, really what's important is they really take care of their backyard. A little bit difficult to do from afar when you have a perishable product. And we don't put shelf lives on our products. We don't have best before dates. We want you to consume our coffee and serve our coffee as quick as you get it, order in small amounts. We really are doing what hand roasting is by definition.
Oh, okay.
So I think with the model that we're going to expand upon, what we really like about Canada, something we talked a little bit about before, is we have a great coffee culture. It's one of the leaders in the world. Scandinavians as well. And I truly believe that Canada is very European influenced. We are influenced by the United States as well. But Cherry Hill Coffee and Cafe Noche really follow some of the trends that our European partners have. And being in Canada, we're in a northern climate. We have a much better palate for a good coffee. And coffee is an affordable luxury, so we want to be able to provide the best coffee possible.
Can you take a step back and elaborate on what might be overall goals of Cherry Hill Coffee?
Well, to be able to become a Canadian company
Okay.
as opposed to an Okanagan, Kelowna company.
So expansion,
Expansion across Canada.
domestic expansion is in your sights.
Absolutely. In fact,
Okay.
we've talked about it numerous times, but we've also gone over with my team just where we are going to start touching ground next and where we're going to set roots next, and what exactly is our strategy in terms of developing into these other cities. And for me, it always has to do with quality. Any changes at Cherry Hill, and whether it's expansion, whether it's even just what we're doing here in Kelowna, is never changes unless it improves quality. We just don't make changes unless it's for a quality reason. We don't make price-conscious decisions. We don't do expense-conscious decisions. It's all based on how we can improve the product. And this business model that we've been playing around with for a bit really allows Cherry Hill to become stronger across Canada without compromising the product, the brand.
Okay, and so the future for Cherry Hill is expansion
Expansion.
and a re-energized focus on quality.
Absolutely, always.
And
Third generation too.
yeah, that's
We want
amazing.
to get my kids involved one day. So
Yeah,
we're going to be
oh,
we're
that's
going to be around
amazing.
for another 30 years.
I can't even comprehend that.
Yeah, it's pretty overwhelming.
Well, it is, because from the time that I met you, Cherry Hill, I don't think the viewers really know, any of the viewers know how long Cherry Hill has been in operation.
You
in
were
the
a young
Okanagan.
man.
Hey?
You were a young man back then.
Yeah, well, so were you.
Yeah, it goes back a
So
bit.
how many years are we talking about?
30 years. We're in our 30th
30
year.
years.
30th year since the company's been established, and the 10th year of being plant certified organic.
That's amazing. Honestly,
Yeah.
that's amazing.
It's been a good ride.
It's an educational visit on the subject of the coffee industry in the Okanagan. And you are certainly one of the leaders, and I enjoy sitting and talking with you because I can identify with it. I don't consider myself a coffee aficionado, but I do drink coffee every day. And we have a grinding machine.
Yeah.
You know which one? That grind control Keurig. I just noticed on my computer as early as yesterday, Keurig has bought Krispy Kreme Donut Company.
There's some big movement in the big companies.
Isn't that amazing?
They're really defining the direction of coffee. Yeah. We really look at things from a Canadian perspective. Yeah. But I mean, we are in a globalization of things now. And for me, what's the most important when you look at that is what all the little guys do day in, day out to make it a wonderful product.
Well, I remember on an earlier conversation you and I had, I'm just going to jump in and stick in a little tidbit of trivia.
Snippet?
Little snippet. An earlier conversation this year, or excuse me, last year, I think by now. And when you told me, I remember I was in your office and you said the price of coffee had risen.
Pretty dramatic, yeah.
Yeah, is it still
you know what?
a wavering boat in the ocean?
It's tough because we belong to a few different types. Coffee is not so simple as just a traded commodity anymore. There's many different levels of coffee. The region that I'm in is pretty pricey. And what we need to do, and it's even more difficult being a smaller company, but what we need to do is still be competitive. So as I was saying earlier, a big part of my job is sourcing our commodities. But for me, is the most important part and the strongest piece to our puzzle is the relationships that I've created with some of these farms and brokers, and the product that we're bringing in every year, the consistency, and the natural product that we're doing that helps sustainability in our ecosystem, and we're really contributing to make this a better place. But it's really about again, looking at the quality first and foremost. But the price on coffee is something we'll never be able to control. It's out of everybody's hands. But the most important thing is bring in the best coffee in that price range that is affordable for people. Yeah. Sometimes people are led by just a more expensive coffee, but for us, it's how it's going to extract, how it's going to taste, how it's going to roast, and how it's going to roast day in and day out.
Yeah, the most expensive, this is a question, Dave. The most expensive coffee is not necessarily the best coffee.
No, it's supply and demand.
Supply and demand.
Yeah. There was many names that we know about Kona coffee. And one of the reasons why it's very expensive is Hawaii can only produce so much coffee. And it's sold so quick that people, the Japanese market actually are buying futures in it every year. They're just a staple to their environment. So that's one of the reasons why Kona coffee is more expensive. It's a wonderful coffee, but is it 10 times better than, because it's 10 times pricier, is it 10 times better than a Bolivian that we actually are probably our most popular coffee right now that we're bringing in is a Guatemalan. It's my favorite, my personal favorite. And day in, day out, it's the best coffee that you can have, and it's that we've brought in. And then there's things that people have heard of like Jamaican Blue Mountain and whatnot. Again, it's a small region that can only supply so much coffee. So that's kind of the tricky thing with a commodity, a supply and demand thing. And when you put in sort of some of the things, the attributes that we look for, that makes it even a little bit thinner region for us to look through.
Dave, we're going to be watching Cherry Hill and its imagery over the next short period of time. And once again, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
We'll talk to you again soon. Well, that's it for the Fire Within for this evening's show. I'm Joel Young. Thank you for watching. We'll talk to you very soon. Good night. We're back with Carrie Robb tonight. Carrie is a leasing agent extraordinaire representing LeaseLine Leasing Company, one of Western Canada's prominent leasing companies. Carrie has really educated us a lot about the diversity in leasing companies that most of us, including you, the viewers, myself, the host and producer of this show, weren't aware of. So tonight we've asked Carrie to come back and maybe fill in a little bit more of the detail about the services that are provided by leasing companies to entrepreneurial startups. The business plan is just one aspect of the business preparation for an entrepreneur. There's a lot of other elements, and I'd like Carrie to touch on that tonight. Can you take it away, Carrie?
Sure. Well, typically a new startup, new entrepreneurs have a hard time going into the bank and getting funds to help start their business. The banks, for one, it takes a lot longer. It's more time intensive when you have to spend time through the bank, where we can get it done a lot quicker. As well, we can work with numerous different vendors around town. Say, they need point of sale machines, computers, furniture for their building. They need, whatever it is that they might need. We can wrap it all in together for them, where the bank might have a hard time financing that type of equipment.
Yep.
We do all types of equipment. So, and with much less of a hassle than it would be going through your bank.
It narrows the one-stop shopping for an entrepreneurial startup.
That's right. And often I work with numerous different vendors from, different types of businesses. So they, we can put it all together, and if a customer doesn't have anybody that, is selling the type of asset that they're looking for, whether, it could be restaurant equipment. Well, I have connections in local plus all over Canada that I deal with companies.
Yep.
That I can hook them up with certain customers that they might be able to find their equipment that they're looking for their company.
The one thing, Carrie, the one thing I wasn't clear with when we met last, is LeaseLine a Western Canadian company or a national company?
It's national.
It's national.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. I was just starting to tell you about a mother-daughter brand new venture that that approached me today when I bumped into them, or rather they bumped into me. They have a $1.3 million business they want to get off the ground, and for a machine that's being manufactured in Germany. So I'm really looking forward to sitting down with the mother and the daughter and discussing this new venture. But listening to them for 15 minutes outside the back door of the bay, the Hudson Bay, I found myself becoming quite interested because of the nature of the machine, but also the preparation that the mother and the daughter have already undertaken. It sounded like they're really doing their research and their proper homework to get the business started. Anything else you can think of for services?
You know, it definitely, it's a lot of work starting a new business. There's a lot that, you know, a lot of time and research and stuff that people have to do when they are starting a new company. I can help with that. I can help relieve a lot of that and kind of give them guidance on, you know, prices and all that kind of thing. So we're definitely more than just a finance company. We help out with all sorts of things, and
Business advice, business counseling, you do
business
that too?
advice, counseling. Yeah.
Because I mentioned to this mother and daughter today the Women's Enterprise Center, and that the Women's Enterprise Center is not a bad location to go to for advice and even funds.
Yep.
They can get funds from the Women's Enterprise Center.
We definitely, you know, give advice and help people restore their credit as well.
Oh,
so if somebody
that's new.
you know, having a hard time or just coming out of bankruptcy and is trying to repair their credit, we can help with that. We help a lot of people.
Oh, for heaven's sakes. The easiest thing that an entrepreneurial startup, whether it's an individual, whether it's a team, can come to the doors of LeaseLine and knock on the door and say, I need help to get this business off the ground. And this is what I need, or this is what I think I need. And you're telling me, and our viewers tonight, you can address that.
Absolutely. Yep. Whether it's for an equipment purchase or for working capital for their company, we can assist them and help them get their business up and running so that they can start generating income.
I like the working capital idea.
Yep.
Okay, I think we wrapped it up, Carrie. Thank you again for coming to help us finish off your segment tonight. Look forward to seeing you in the future. I look forward to seeing you on the television set.
Thank you for having me.